The political theater from Donald Trump and the Fed just continues to roll on as Donald Trump just made the first attempt in history to do this to the Fed. We're going to dive into all of it. But first, now we have Lisa Cook clapping back after Donald Trump has attempted to fire a Fed governor. And we're going to dive into the significance of this and why Donald Trump might be doing this to cut interest rates a little bit sooner and get the Fed, that is supposed to be politically agnostic, more towards his side. But first, we're looking at Lisa Cook attempting to sue Donald Trump because he's now tried to fire her. And as you guys know, Donald Trump from The Apprentice, he loves the words, "you fired." But we aren't there yet. We aren't on The Apprentice. We're watching just real-time politics play out here. So Lisa Cook, for those of you who don't know, is a Federal Reserve Board governor, and she is filing a lawsuit challenging her removal by Donald Trump, and he has, quote, no authority, allegedly. So we'll see what's going to happen with all this, and Trump says he's removing her because she's citing his administration's allegations of mortgage fraud, which is a very interesting aspect of this, because he said, "The pursuant to my authority, you are hereby removed from your position of the Federal Reserve effective immediately." Criminal referral, where William Plute, for those of you guys who don't know, Plute was on X all of last year giving away free Bitcoin. So little wrinkle to that. But Plute is now citing all of this and saying, hey, President Trump purported me to fire me for cause when no cause exists, and he has no authority to do so, and I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties. Her attorney is now suing, and his attempt to fire is based solely on a referral level and lacks any factual legal basis. Yes, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. Who knows? But this political theater is rolling on. So it's interesting to see her now start to sue Donald Trump. But with this, why might he want to do this? Because President Trump signed an executive order to fire her. So never in the 111-year history of the Fed, this would completely shift the Fed. Now let's see. This is a great thread why, and they've given some more thoughts here. So the Kobayashi letter, shout out to these guys because they put out great content. But it cites an article claiming that she can be removed for cause if she's a criminal. And the cause is what Plute has said. There's been a 2-week span in 2021 where it's been committed mortgage fraud. And here's why Trump cares about so much. There are 7 Fed governors, including Chairman Jed Powell, who can vote on interest rate policy. Currently, excluding Powell, Trump has appointed 3 of these 7. So if Cook were to be removed, well, Trump would now have 3 of the 6 potentially, and he would now have a one that he can appoint as the 4th. So he would have majority in there, so he could now potentially force the Fed's hands to cut interest rates. He's going to get a Fed governor in there that's going to support what he wants to do. So by removing Lisa Cook and going through this, because this is mortgage fraud that happened in 2022. This is 2025, folks. It's not like this happened yesterday. This happened, a good time ago. So now we are seeing what's going on here. And there's the ability to do that. Trump appointees would have the majority. And her term does not expire until January 2038. So the Fed Reserve Act says they can serve a 14-year term and can only be removed for cause. This is intended to isolate the Fed from any political pressures to allow it to function independently. So if Cook is removed, Trump's path to rate cuts becomes far more certain. For a 300 basis point cut, that's insane. We've never had the largest cut in history is a 100 basis point cut. Of course, Donald Trump does the art of the deal, folks. So he's going to be going for a rate cut that is significantly higher than what he generally expects, right? I mean, he's not going to expect a 300 point basis cut. A 300 point basis point cut, excuse me. I'm fumbling all over these words, but he's not going to expect that. At least I don't think so. Any rational guy is not going to expect that. But what he is going to expect is there's going to be a cut, and there's going to be a big cut and more big cuts. And they're going to bring this all down, right? So with this, right, Donnie T says $360 billion of print per year in refinancing costs with no inflation. So they've responded and said that they will they will sue, and this will leave the Fed in a difficult position because if Cook remains duties as Fed governors, will this go through courts? If so, would the ruling uphold? This case is unprecedented, and so are the implications. Ultimately, with or without the Fed Cook, the rate cut is coming within 1 month, right? It's only 25 basis points, right? Like we've got 22 days until the next basis point cut, and it's 86% of the way. I hope that they don't cut, but it looks like this is essentially what we're going to see here, right? 86% chance. And so the ongoing changes of the Fed will make huge market applications. And these market applications, right? I think the most important chart we got to look at here is that here, right? Lisa Cook under Biden. Philip Jefferson, his chairman terms end, his vice chair ends in 27. His expiration term is 2036 if he wants to stay around that long. But Lisa Cook, she just got appointed here at the end of at the end of 24, or at the beginning of 24, excuse me. So seeing this come in, well, this will get somebody who's really vouching for low inflation rates. And the Fed set to cut core rates. Since 1985, the Fed has only cut rates one time with core CPI above 3%. Now, it's seemingly like they're going to do it here, and they're going to cut interest rates with core CPI still very high, which is not a positive here, folks. We don't like seeing this high number. So, I think we're going to continue to see some issues here. And we're going to have to keep a close eye on what happens with the market from now on, right? Because the Fed is supposed to be a political, but it's not entirely. The Fed structure by nature is supposed to be apolitical, but it's a quasi-governmental institution. They have 14-year terms to try to be apolitical because they'll go through, 3.5 presidents, allegedly, maybe 2. If they both stay for 4-year term or 8-year terms, 2 4-year terms, right? But Congress has given the Fed a dual mandate of price stability and maximum employment. So there is allegedly no political influence, but it seems that various means are still going through, right? I mean, public perception of the Fed and political leanings can affect market expectations. The Fed can ultimately be accountable to Congress and the public, but partially during times of economic uncertainty, everybody looks at the president and not the Fed. So this is why, even though it is considered apolitical, it still has a little politics here. So, I mean, I think that everybody has been keeping a close eye on it. I mean, we've got Derek in the chat. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think from this perspective, everybody thinks once we cut interest rates, that it's going to pump bags. I'm of the opposite opinion because everybody thinks this at this time. I think that while you think, hey, you know what? The Fed's going to cut interest rates. Everybody's going to cut interest rates. So we're going to see things really start to pump here. I kind of doubt it. You know, I think once we see the Fed cut interest rates, if they're not going to be very aggressive, the market has already counted in 2 interest rates, right? So All Nighter Hider in the chat saying there's 12 voting members, 5 advisors, and 2 alternatives. That's exactly it. So Trump has a bunch of authority. I mean, he's been kind of doing some a little iffy things here. I mean, you know, getting 10% of Intel, I didn't like that move. And then, you know, what we're seeing from the Dixie, thank God it's starting to pump back up a little bit, but it's still making me a little nervous seeing these moves like this. I mean, I know we're in a dire position, right? The United States economy is not where it needs to be. So I think we need to be keeping a close eye because even though the economy is not where it needs to be, the market is running hot, folks. The S&P 500 still continues to pump day over day over day. So seeing this, right, we're going to see it start to pump pretty good. And this is going to be something that, you know, it's going to be a little iffy here. Right? So with the 6-month generational run, I mean, we're not quite down to the bottom of the bottoms yet, 6 months away. But I mean, the past 4.5 months ish since mid-April that we saw, this upward trend that we've seen has been just incredible. I mean, we haven't seen the S&P 500 go up as much as this in a 4.5-month period almost ever in history. I mean, they're saying that they're looking at the data, but the problem with all this data, this is why I cover this heavily on this channel. So you guys got to be hitting that subscribe button and smoking the like Cheech and Chong, like All Nighter Hider always says. But the reason I always say this is because the data is survey-based data. So it's not the best, most efficient, one. And 2, it just isn't an accurate showing because people aren't necessarily, you know, grasping the data. For example, like, I don't know when's the last time you guys filled out a government survey, but it's been a while for me, folks. So free market capitalism is what would create full employment and stable prices. I mean, I agree here, but the problem is that I don't know if we've ever seen a free market. You know, I mean, we see these appointees here all between Trump and Biden, which is very interesting. The 14-year periods ended with those 2 presidents. Fairly recent. And now Trump is already trying to get Lisa Cook out of there. Right? So it's never happened here in history. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see because Trump will take this on like no president we've ever seen before. And that's going to lead for some dramatic market implications. And so make sure you guys are subscribing to this channel because I'm going to be covering it. Thank you guys all for helping me reach over 300 subscribers. Grateful from the bottom of my heart that over 300 of you guys like to hear me blab about this stuff. And hopefully we'll get 300 more of you guys in the next 30 days. And I will catch you guys all at the next one.